Sav, thanks so much for being here. What were the final numbers and how did the provinces and territories vote?
It's a great question. I have lots of data for you here from Elections Canada. They say more than 99% of the polls have reported as of 10 a.m. Central this morning, and there were roughly 500 that still need to be counted across the country. The Liberals won a minority government with 168 seats. They needed 172 to form a majority government. The Conservative Party is the official opposition with 144 seats in Parliament. The NDP fell from grace, though, winning only 7 seats, 18 less than the previous federal election. They lost official party status, which requires 12 seats, and their leader, Jagmeet Singh, stepped down after losing in his riding. The Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, is also projected to have lost in his riding, a seat he has held since 2004, but said last night he will stay on as party leader. The Bloc Québécois won 23 seats, and the Green Party won 1 seat. And I'd love to give you a breakdown of how the regions voted across the country. The East Coast was dominated by the Liberal Red. The party won 71% of the electoral districts in Newfoundland and Labrador, 60% in New Brunswick, and a whopping 90% in Nova Scotia and 100% in Prince Edward Island. Continuing their streak, the Liberals won Quebec with 55% of electoral districts, and the province's Bloc Québécois came in second with 29%. Ontario saw the Liberals winning 56% of districts. And now this is where things start to change, Creason. Manitoba voted mainly Conservative. They won 50% of the districts. So did Saskatchewan with almost 93% of districts. The blue wave continues with Conservatives claiming almost 92% of districts in Alberta. British Columbia was very close, but the Liberals came out on top with 46%, only 2 points ahead of the Conservatives. The territories each have 1 seat in Parliament. Nunavut is very close, with NDP currently holding 37.3% of the vote to the Liberals' 36.6%. And Yukon and Northwest Territories went to the Liberals with 50% of the vote for each.
How many voters came out, Sav?
Preliminary numbers so far say that more than 67% of eligible voters participated in this election. That's more than 19 million Canadians who voted out of a possible 28.5 million already registered. But keep in mind, that's not including voters who registered at the polls on election day, and some polls are still reporting, so that number will go up. That's the largest voter turnout for a federal election in 32 years, Creason, since 1993, where 70.9% of voters went to the polls. There is one exception to this, the 2015 election that saw Justin Trudeau first become prime minister with 3% voter turnout. Preliminary estimates say 7.3 million Canadians cast their votes in advance voting.
What was the final numbers of Indigenous candidates elected? I saw that it might have gone down a bit.
Yeah, so there were 45 Indigenous candidates across the country in 35 electoral districts running. British Columbia, Ontario, and Quebec all had the most running in their provinces with 8 each. I'm using projected numbers here, but so far it looks like it's safe to say 11 Indigenous candidates won ridings and seats in Parliament this election. Last federal election saw 77 candidates running, winning 12 seats. The party breakdown of those who won is 3 for Conservatives, 5 for Liberals, 2 for NDP, and 1 Bloc Québécois. Some candidates to mention are the incumbents who are keeping their seats, like Conservative Mark Dalton for Meadows Maple Ridge, BC, NDP Leah Gazan for Winnipeg Centre, Manitoba, Liberal Jaime Baptiste for Cape Breton, Kansno, Antigonish, NDP Laurie Idlout for Nunavut, and Bloc Québécois Simon-Pierre Savard Tremblay for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot-Acton, Quebec.
Were there any surprises with the riding results here, Sav?
Yeah, Creason, as I mentioned before, Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre and NDP leader Jagmeet Singh both lost in their ridings. NDP incumbent for Edmonton Griesbach, Lake Desjardins, lost the seat he won in the last election by a wide margin to Conservative Carrie Diot. Desjardins is known as a fierce advocate for Indigenous peoples and also the first openly Two-Spirit person to serve as an MP. We also saw an Indigenous candidate win a seat long held by an incumbent. Liberal candidate Rebecca Chartrand, who is now Member of Parliament for Churchill-Kiiwetinoong-Aski riding, swept up the votes from NDP incumbent Nikki Ashton, who had a strong hold on the district since the 2008 election. Chartrand won by 17 percentage points. There were also reports of polling stations only staying open for about 2 or 3 hours out of a standard 12-hour operation in Nunavut, Quebec, an area with a high Inuit population. Some of its residents said online that their polling stations did not receive enough voting material.
Thank you, Sav, for that breakdown.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Creason.